Hello everybody, CritCrab here with another story, this one about how somebody met and married their significant other that he met through his D&D group. Roll post. Hey guys, I know a lot of the stuff on here is horror stories and I wanted to spice it up with a positive and wholesome post. Names changed for obvious reasons, but there's our DM, Matt, me, Cyrus, wife, Oriana, wife's ex, Dorian, guy who had a crush on my wife, Dane, friend, Dante, and others who were a part of our regular group but don't have a huge impact on this story specifically. So about 4 to 5 years ago, my friends and I got into D&D 5e, which was amazing and great. When we first started, we weren't really role-playing and barely knew the rules, but we met consistently. It was Matt, me, Dorian, and Dante who had our first campaign together. It was a grand old time of memes and ridiculous situations that I'm sure anyone reading would be able to relate to. Well, we finish our campaign and decide to start a new one that Matt completely homebrewed himself. It's amazing, from the world building to our characters actually having real backstories instead of just going off of the book ones. At this point, we have Dane join us for it. It's much like our first campaign where we lacked on the roleplay but had a lot of good fights. It was like we railroaded ourselves and Matt just went along with it. He was and is a really good DM to this day. There was a point in our campaign where I had to disappear for 2 months for work reasons. I was going to a place that didn't have internet connection and we played on Roll20. So Matt finds a cool little way to have my character leave the party to go on a quest in the Feywilds while I did my stuff in real life. Fast forward those 2 months and I come back to find there's a new person playing with us, a girl named Oriana who's dating Dorian IRL. The DM gives me a TLDR on my 2 months of what my character did, and apparently I had become a champion of the Fey Queen and was given a quest to find and stop the big bad evil guy, which the current party had no knowledge of his existence. My character comes back and is welcomed with open arms by all of the original party members, but not by Oriana. We were the type of guys who railroaded ourselves, so when I told the guys about the plan, I expected them to just immediately jump on board and continue our game. But Oriana had other ideas. She brought one thing that our game lacked, and that was the role-playing side to D&D. She questioned my character, even challenged him, and brought out a more emotional side to the game. It was definitely a change of pace from just going from combat to combat. As the campaign continued, she helped us hone our skills in role-playing, and we helped her get better at combat because she lacked in that department. Her character and mine started to connect more, which made Dorian a little jealous. I didn't want to step on his toes, so I tried to make sure it was just light stuff, but I also wanted a good story to happen. When the campaign finally ended, Matt wanted to run another one and make it a podcast. I won't post it so it's not self-promoting. Dorian and Oriana had broken up in our hiatus waiting for the new campaign to start, and we all thought it was best to not invite Dorian to the podcast, but keep Oriana. Dorian had become more toxic IRL for other reasons, and we wanted the highest tier performance we could offer. I knew Oriana was a writer, so I asked if we could make linked backstories so she could help me make a more complex character with an intricate backstory. She was more than excited to be a part of that. We write these amazing characters that had been enemies at first but became inseparable, linked by the goal of revenge towards a certain evil guy. Doing this little exercise, Oriana and I started connecting on a more personal level and started chatting outside of the game a little bit more. We became solid friends as I helped support her emotional struggles with college life as well as her helping me in various other things as well. The campaign goes on and it becomes apparent to all of us, except Oriana, that Dane has a crush on her. Not only did he have a crush on her, but he made his character also have a crush on her character. It was a running joke between Matt, Dante, and myself because he even said to her face, "I ship us." Like, when we heard that he said that, we all laughed and cringed so hard. During the podcast, Oriana and Dane's characters actually became a couple because it was a fun little thing to do and added more emotion to everything already going on. I wasn't jealous, well, maybe a little, so obviously I didn't try and get in the way. I mean, come on, the podcast had to survive. There was no room for toxicity in that way. So as time goes on, the podcast eventually comes to an end, which made us all very sad. It was a big part of our lives and half of us lived in a different state, including Oriana, so we grew somewhat distant for a while. We continued playing other campaigns in person, which had us not chatting too much with the others who used to be a part of our online game. Time goes by, about a year I believe, and I decided to randomly shoot Oriana a PM and see how she's doing. She tells me everything going on in her life and mentions she's actually thinking about moving to where we lived for her career and stuff. I immediately encourage her to do so because 1, I want her to pursue her career and be fulfilled in life, and 2, because I wanted to see her again. We had met in person beforehand. We all decided to make a vacation trip together, most of the original party with Oriana included and a few of our other friends. It was just a bunch of young adults renting out an Airbnb in the woods and having a grand time getting drunk and going to the lake, etc. We run a one-shot while we're there, hosted by me, and it brings back a lot of nostalgia from playing with Oriana again. It starts to get late as the session is closing up and everyone starts going to bed, but Oriana and I stay up and just talk for a while. Maybe we were drunk and wouldn't have had the confidence to say anything otherwise, but we confessed our feelings for each other, which was beyond me because I never thought she'd be into me. I was happy with us being friends, but obviously I was more happy when we became more at that point. We kept it secret from our friends for a while because she wanted to make sure she was settled into her new state of living before we became official, and none of the boys were surprised. But that's my small story about how you can find love through D&D. I know a lot of the posts can be toxic love letters and horror players, but sometimes it works out in the end. Don't give up hope and just don't be toxic. TLDR, new girl comes into our D&D session, tells us we need to be better actors, and we end up together IRL, because we had awesome linked backstories. End post. This is probably the sweetest thing that I've read out loud ever in my life. While there are several stories of people meeting their significant other through gaming, I think it hits different when it comes from a TRPG like Dungeons & Dragons, because games like D&D are way more personal and all of the players bring something a little different to the group. That being especially evident in this story where role-playing is concerned. Also, on a completely different note, I'm going to be making a very different type of video than I usually make, where I attempt to answer any and all of your questions, so go check out the community page, leave a comment there, and you'll hear more about this later. That aside, thank you very much to iShipGaz and Cav for sharing your story, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories just like this one. Till next time.